I'm Kara, and I am going to go through a reformer workout, kind of advanced beginner, intermediate, adding some unilateral work to the workout today is my plan. I am on a stock reformer. I'll give you the spring settings. They'll be similar on other brands of equipment. Just adjust as needed and honor your body as you should if you have any issues or injuries or need a lighter or heavier spring. I'm going to start with 2 red springs because I'm going to go just a quick little warm up and then right into some unilateral or single leg footwork. Take my headrest down, but you can always adjust it to where it works best for your body. So I'm going to start with the Pilates V on the balls of my feet, pressing my carriage out and controlling back in. So you find a nice stable back and pelvis as you extend the carriage out and bring it back in. I always say the breath should go with where you need the stability. So some people prefer to inhale out, some prefer to exhale as you press the carriage out. The key being that you're breathing and finding that stability. So a lot of times exhaling to the exertional part or where you're the most challenged in your stability is where you should breathe. We're just going to do a couple more like this. And then I'm going to bring it to a parallel on my toes. I'll press the carriage out. I'm going to lower my heels once, lift my heels, and come back in. So just in a parallel high heel position with a little calf raise, lower and lift, a little tendon stretch. Those are all the same thing. So adding that lower and lift and return. Again, trying to stay stable. I just want to get those ankles warmed up a little bit before I go into my single leg work. And send it up. One more full breath here. Pressing out, lower, nice little stretch, an activation, and then your return. All right, so I'm going to stay on the balls of my feet. I'm going to take my right leg out long. You can do the other leg first if you want. So I'm going to find that long diagonal with that gesture leg, high heel stable on my foot bar left leg. As I press out, I'm just going to bend that leg into that tabletop leg shape and press it out. So I can pull it in a little further or a little less. But my goal is that my pelvis and low back or that lumbopelvic area stays stable. So my left leg is that working leg. I'm starting to feel some work because as I took that leg away from the foot bar, I kind of doubled the tension. And then I'm going to come in and switch legs. So now I have the left leg out, high heel, right leg, even across the foot with the ankle pretty stable. I'm pressing out and then gesturing back over. If you need a little more stability, you could always just keep the leg at tabletop and not add that reaching across and back. Do somewhere between 8 and 10 reps on each leg with this, depending on what else I'm going to do in my workout or plan. I'm going to do one more here. And then when I come back in, I'm going to put both feet back on the foot bar. I'm going to go to a second position or that wide externally rotated position. So when I say wide, I still want my feet to kind of line up with my hips or shoulders. So I don't always go all the way to the outside and I don't want to flop my legs, right? So finding that stability. So I'm going to press out once just to make sure I'm nice and anchored and connected. And my toes are going to stay up, something like a little crazy big toe. I'm going to try to hold it still. So now once I figure out that my feet are in the right position, I'm going to add a unique stability challenge. I'm going to bring my right foot off of the foot bar, just kind of in line with my other leg. Press out. As I come back in, I'm going to put that foot down and switch legs. So I'm not really moving that foot or that thigh very much. So I'm kind of doing that like, call it a little sumo stomp, like the sumo wrestlers. So I'm trying to find that length, and then I'm right there to catch the foot bar. And then bringing it back. So using that breath, pressing out, finding those abdominals. Y'all, your abs should be working when you do footwork. If they're not, you need to find that connection. So this is warming up the whole body, working the muscles, the feet, the thighs, the calf and ankle, the abs, a little bit of the brain when we add some reciprocating movement like this. I'm going to do one more where I lift the right leg, one more where I lift the left leg, and I'm going to bring it all back in. I'm going to zip my legs together in the middle, and I'm going to kind of go to arches. I'm just going to do the wraps toes with both feet pressing out long and back in. So my toes should be wrapped over in a gentle point, kind of like a little dancer point versus a death grip with my toes. Not trying to pick up marbles, just pressing that out, working those arch muscles. You should feel those muscles working. You might get a little stimulation of some of the other muscles in the body. Little feet to seat connections, what I'm going for on the way back in. Breathing, connecting all the parts and pieces. And I'm already starting to get a little heat in the body, also known as sweat. This is all I've done. I always say Pilates gets you warm from the inside out. All right, so I'm going to stay in the middle, heels on, and I'm going to take my right leg out long with the foot flex, dorsiflex, or toes to my nose on each side. So this quad muscle is active. As I press out, I call it paintbrush toes. Toes are going to point up to the sky, and I'm going to drag it back down to where I started. So this gesture, like range of motion, should be where you're stable. The ankle articulation, or pointing and flexing, is optional. Try to keep this leg straight though. You have to bend the knee a little bit, that's okay, but try to keep it still so this thigh muscle is still engaged and not just like floppy, right? That's how we get the whole body movement. My abdominals, obliques on either side, are challenged here as I add this gesture to not let my pelvis do the rock and roll. Now that I've said all the things, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to press out one more time and stay. Pointing my toe up to the sky, really pulling in with my abs, trying to stay pretty stable in my pelvis. Move a little bit, try not to roll off the reformer. One leg circle, I'm going to take it across my body, down, around, and up. So cross my body down, around, up. You can make a little circle on the ceiling if that's your point of stability. But the bigger you make that circle, the more challenging it is for your stability. But you need to find where you have that point of control. I'm going to pause at the top and I'm going to go the other direction. Away from the body, down, around, and up. Standing into this foot on the foot bar helps stabilize me. And actually can make that one leg circle from our mat version a little bit more stable for some people. Last circle. And then when I get up to the top, I'm going to bend that knee and return. All right, both feet back on the foot bar. I'm going to switch legs. So now I'm reaching that left leg out. Again, I'm going to find stability. So my hips are pretty level across here, where sides of the waist are even. You can always check that out, or the little hands on the pelvis to feel that you're stable. And then point the toe up as I press out and drag it back down. So again, adding that point and flex to the ankle. Again, optional, but try to keep this leg straight, like there's little energy going out of your toes. Or you might think you're shooting little laser beams. Pressing up and in. As I press out, I like to think about my thigh bone on that pushing leg going before the knee. So I really feel that extension of the hip and then the knee while the ankle is stable on the foot bar leg. So you find that, you really find that foot or where your thigh butt in that little gluteal fold area. I'm going to do two more full range of motion. So this is the last one I'm going to do like this. And I'm going to press out and hold. So now I'm going to try to stand strong in the leg on the foot bar. And I'll take that gesture leg across the body, down, around, and up. Again, I can be tracing little circles. Where's your point of control? And also, where's your hip mobility? I'm going to do two more. And again, really trying to stay active in the seat on my foot bar, right leg. And then when I get to the top, I'm going to pause and go the other way. So taking it down, around, and up. Again, finding as much stability in that lumbopelvic area as I can. Bring my arms up so you can see that's not moving. You can always anchor your arm to the carriage. One more time. And then I'll bend the knees and return. I already have my headrest flat because that's where I prefer it with the alignment for my other exercises. And then we're gonna start with a little asymmetrical. And I didn't gear my carriage out like I normally do, because I think my husband used it last. So I didn't realize it was in. So I'm gonna push out just a couple inches just so I fit here. I'm gonna keep my right foot down on the platform, that little standing platform, and my left heel on here. I'm gonna brace my abs and then hinge up and back down. So I'm gonna push through both feet. And we're just gonna do a couple more here, just warming up that backside. Sometimes I can minimize the hamstrings wanting to grip a little extra right away when I do this up high. And then I'm gonna bring that switch of the feet. So my right foot's up, my left foot's down. Okay, pick one. Brace your abs and then hinge up. So it should be a hip extension as your main movement. So I can reach my arms up and challenge that stability a little bit. But again, I'm still trying to get that glute and hamstring warmed up here a little bit in that hinge bridge shape. And then I'll bring both feet up. And now I'm gonna articulate up. You can hinge. If you got some back stuff, osteoporosis, you probably should. I'm gonna mobilize my spine. So I'm gonna start with that imprint or a little posterior tilt, dump from the water towards my nose, and then peel my spine up, holding the carriage as still as I can. Big breath in. And then as I exhale, I'll reverse that pattern, melting my spine back down. And a nice heavy tailbone. So try not to rush it, but find your connection. So a little tilt to the pelvis and then peel up. I'm trying to think knees reaching across the room or over my toes. So I get that length. And that's how you can hold your carriage still as well. All right, one more like that. So let's peel, curl, and extend the spine. So I got that articulation, holding this right here. Now I'm going to bring a little march into it. So again, I'm going to brace with my arms so I stay wide across the shoulder blades. My nose is going to stay to the loft, so I keep my head in line. I'm going to bring the right leg to tabletop, pause. So I have to stabilize from the lateral hips and the posterior side. And then I'll put the foot down and the other side. So I want this slow and controlled. And I like to find right at my heel bone because I'm a little more stable and I don't feel like I'm going to lose the foot bar. And I'm going to march side to side a couple more times. Again, unilateral work works the side of the hips and the back while the core is still working. I started talking, so I lost count, so I'll do one more on each side. Pilates instructors aren't known for our counting skills. Once both feet are down, I'm going to lower back down to the carriage mat. Sometimes a little tick-tock side to side feels good for a moment to release those hips. So now I'm going to add a progression. It is a little more advanced. You've got some options of not moving the carriage. I'm going to come up with both feet so I can make sure I'm in a nice good spot. And then I'm going to bring that right leg to tabletop. You can keep it right there. I'm going to straighten it up and I'm going to add that lower and lift like we did in that footwork. So this is the shoulder bridge. You can keep the knee bent if you need it a little bit less. But we warmed it up with that asymmetrical on the platform, right? And then when I'm back here, I'll bend the knee, reset that bridge, trying to stay long and strong and stable. And then I'll bring the other leg through tabletop, option to keep it there and do toe taps, reach the leg up. And then I'll do that shoulder bridge, pointing and flexing. I'm doing 5 times with that lower and lift. I'm trying to hold the carriage as still as I can. And then I'll bend the knee, find the foot bar, and lower back down. All right, I'm gonna add a little knee extension. Definitely nicer to keep 2 feet on the foot bar. I'm gonna go 1. So this does level it up a little bit, honor your body and what you got. So I'm gonna straighten my right leg up to the ceiling. Notice my thighs are pretty in line with each other to start with. And then I'm gonna try to lift up, hinge up if you need to, or lift up in one piece. Tabletop leg is a little nicer. I'm gonna try to keep this leg up to the ceiling. And then I'm gonna press out and pull back in. So a glute and quad to press out, and hamstring to pull in. So I'm trying to think about that sit bone coming back to my heel, everything straight ahead. This is something I would not do on lighter tension because you need a little support, especially when you add that one leg option. Coming back to the stopper, oops, a little too quick, and then I'm going to lower all the way down, put that foot back on the foot bar. So we'll do the same thing on the other leg. So I'm going to point that other leg, for me it's the left, up to the sky, thighs pretty in line, or knees kind of level. And then I'm going to lift up or peel up into that bridge, and then holding that leg up to the sky, press out, pull back in. Long through both sides of the waist. A lot of times people drop it. So my goal is to stay stable there. As I do that, quad and glute extension, and hamstring to pull back in. I usually do 5. I didn't count. Again, I was talking. Come all the way back in. I'm going to keep that like reaching to the sky and control my way back down. I like to throw the running or prancing in here because as I press my carriage all the way out with long legs, my hamstrings get lengthened. And then I can take a little stretch up to both high heels, drop the other heel and stretch. So some call it prancing, some call it running. Right now I want it to be a little more of a walk than a run. So I get that stretch and then activation. We'll do this one more time on each side. And then coming all the way back in. All right, once I'm back into the stopper, I'm gonna swivel, sit up, and I'm gonna take a spring. So I'm going down to just one red spring again on my stopper reformer. If you're on a different brand, you may need a little different. See where it works for you. And then I'm gonna lay it back down on my side. I start with my left hand, since it's the closest to the camera. And again, I'm gonna try to find my stability in my back and pelvis. I'm gonna put my other hand down on the carriage and kind of hold on. I like to start with my arm at that 90-degree bend. You can open or close fist, whatever feels better with your hand. A closed fist will make your forearm muscles fire up. So if you got a little weakness or you feel like your wrist is hanging behind, just hold the strap. And then I'm gonna bring my legs into tabletop. I like to make sure the shoulders set first, okay? Obliques are really gonna be challenged here to stay stable and not rock or roll as I do my lower and lift. Additional option, take the opposite. So my left hand's in the strap, my right leg's gonna point towards the wall in front of me. So now I've got a little bit of that longer lever challenge. So my leg got heavier and my abs have to work a little more. So again, just the lift and lower the arms, maybe keep both legs at tabletop. I'm feeling some obliques as I do this unilateral single arm. Now I'm gonna hold the next one down. Always okay to take a timeout and reset. And now I'm gonna bend the elbow for tricep. As I straighten the elbow, I'm gonna have both legs out long. And then I'm gonna bend just that same side leg. So they're gonna synchronize that bend and straighten. Again, I'm taking the other leg and it's just sticking out there. If it gets a little fatigued, feel free to bend it in. Maybe 2 more. Working some shoulders for stability and some triceps to press. And then I'll bring everything in and take a quick reset. Okay, I'm gonna take the hand back up to the ceiling and a little bit out on an angle. So it's about a 45-degree angle from the ceiling and the wall, not all the way to a T, just about halfway there. Get some tension in the straps, and then I'm gonna flip my legs to tabletop. I like to open to a little bit of a frog shape, and then take my right leg out on the diagonal. So it's that Peter Pan or stag. And I'm gonna pull that left arm, the one in the strap, down to my hip. And I'm just kind of skimming the same angle that that leg is in. So the right leg out to the side actually gives me a little bit of a counterbalance, but it's a little challenge to stay stable. And I'm just gonna do 2 more here. And bring it in. All right, so I'm back at the stopper. I'm gonna put my right hand, the one that was the free hand, on top of the other. So both hands kind of like alligator jaw together over my chest. Bring my legs back to that tabletop turned out, or what we sometimes call frog. I'm gonna add a chest lift here. So if you have spinal stuff and shouldn't add flexion, just sit down and do the arms. But otherwise, I'm gonna hold my heels together. I'm gonna stay stable there. And I'm gonna add a little chest lift. I'm just gonna do 5 little spinal flexion ab curls up. Like I'm reaching towards my heels and back down. Key is that the head chest lift the same tempo of the arms so you don't hit yourself in the eyeballs. Exhaling as I flex up just to the bottom points of the shoulder blades. I'm trying to hold the lower half still. And then I'll bring it in and take a pause. All right, I'm gonna put that strap down and I'm gonna repeat all that. Hopefully I remember everything I did on the other hand. So I'll take that right arm up to the skies in that right strap. Left hand down by my side, tabletop my legs. Make those shoulders up a little bit. Find a couple here of just a lower lift. I can stay right there or take that left leg, the opposite leg out long. Then just do this straight arm lower and lift. Really the back of the arm, the underarm, the lats, the shoulder stabilizers. And now I'm gonna hold it down. I'm gonna go right into that tricep. So I'll bend the elbow. And as I straighten the elbow, I'm gonna straighten the legs so they meet. That's my goal anyway. Inhale to bend, exhale to straighten. So I'm working the back of the upper arm. My elbow could be touching the mat or hovering off just an inch to find that stability challenge where it works for you. Last one like this. And I'll bring everything in for a quick reset. All right, so I'm gonna take that hand up to the side and into that 45, or like I'm making the YMCA shape or a V. And then legs to the frog tabletop shape. So I know I've got my feet centered. And then I'll take the left leg away. Right arm's gonna come down on that 45-degree angle. My goal is not to roll over, because that's what my pelvis, my whole body wants to shift. So I'm trying to stay stable there. And Tinkerbell or Peter Pan floating through the sky. And my arms on that 45-degree angle. I'm feeling some different spots in the backside. Working just one more. And then I'll bring the legs back there. You rest your feet to get set. And then I'm going to put the left hand on top of the right. So I bring that free hand on top, make that stacked hand, shoulder set, down over my heart, legs to tabletop. Make sure you're not shoved up against shoulder blocks. Squeeze your heels together. And then add that ab curl if it's appropriate for you. You could also just do the arms and you'll still get some work. I'm going to do 3 more. Curling head and chest up. Ribs slide the hips. The chin's really to mid-throat, all the way to your chest, so you don't cut off your airway. And then I'll bring it in and reset. And there is some abs and arms combined. Let me get rid of that strap. I'm going to come up off of my back. All right, so I'm going to drop down to a lighter spring. So I'm going to the 1 blue spring on my reformer. Again, modify as you need. And then I'm going to kneel. These are reverse abs, kneeling abs, reverse knee stretches, lots of different names here. Lots of variations of this as well. So I like my knees just like maybe a fist distance away from the shoulder blocks. And then I bring my pelvis over the foot bar. So I want to have that little bit of opening in my hips, and then my hands, as you should notice, are a little bit further away than my shoulders, okay? So from here, I'm going to try to stabilize my back and pelvis in that plank-like shape, and then I'm just going to pull my knees under me and back. So having the thighs against the shoulder blocks, give me something to pull against. My goal right now is to keep my upper half still and not change my shoulder angle. My hip is what's changing, a little bit of the knees, but I'm pulling the belly in, away from my shirt. And then I'll bring that back to the stopper. Okay. Now, progression from here would be to take this over to obliques. So I'm going to take my other hand across, and this will depend on your reformer of where you have your hands. I don't care if your fingers are on the same side or staggering it, but again, they're out a little bit. And now this time I'm going to add a little ramp or a little flex of my spine. And I'm going to look towards that shoulder block on the same side my hands are. And then you can have toes tucked or down, whatever works for you to stay stable. I'm going to pull in for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then I'll come back. Hands the other side. I try to make sure they stay at the same spot where they were. And then again, whichever spot works. If you're on a balanced body, the rails are a little narrower, so you may need a different spot. And now I see why I usually wear long pants, because my knees are getting a little sticky. So I'm going to pull in here for 5. A little flex of the spine. Done. Just enough to almost feel like I'm tucking my tail under. 2 more. Exhale as you pull in. Again, should be shoulders to stabilize, abs to activate and connect the core, and those hip flexors. Then I'm going to come back to the center, and I'm just going to do a little cat stretch. Back to a flat back. A little cat stretch. And back to a flat back. Now that 1 more time. Stretch. And activate. Now, you can stay right here and do a little bird jog. I'm going to go into a plank for my toes, which means I'm going to walk my hands a little bit past my shoulders, so closer to my eyeballs, and then I'm going to lift up to a plank. I'm just going to plank on the rails. Just reach your hands, just go back down. I'm just holding it. I'm not even trying to move the hair. I'm just holding a basic plank. about 30 seconds. Strong shoulders, active legs, back is long. Shoulders are as wide as I can keep them. Breathing when I turn my head and look at you, it changes my posture. So I'm going to try to look at the floor for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I'll rest it down. And go into a little shell stretch, and then bring it up. All right, so staying on that same spring, you may sit, or you can kneel, or you can high kneel. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to grab the right strap. So I'm going to do some single arm work here. So start chest expansion, and I can pull that arm back and forward. I can stay here. If your hips or knees don't like this position, sit on your bum. If you're stable and your knees are okay with it, come up tall. A lot of times people choke up a little bit on the rope, so you may be above or below the hardware. I like where the strap is sitting together, or I should say my hand does. And again, you can have kickstand feet or flat feet. The goal is your spine and body stay still. Eyes straight ahead, and then we're going to pull that right arm back and forward. So again, pick your body position, seated, low kneeling, or high kneeling. That works for you. Then I'm just sweeping that straight arm back. Try not to let it get too far that my shoulder gets compromised. My ribs to hips are in line on that front side. And then I'm going to hold it back, just like we did on our back. I'm going to add a tricep press. So I'm just going to hold the upper arm still and bend and straighten my elbow. Sometimes people put their hand on that shoulder so they can feel that it's staying down and not hiking up. You can have the free arm playing along for your brain, or on your hip and pelvis to tell that you're staying stable. I got one more here. And then I'm going to bring it in. Okay. And then I'm going to take that strap wide. I have my palm down. This is a little challenge. I call this unhug a tree. It's high chest expansion. It's a posterior shoulder rear delt. And then you're just going to pull out a little bit, just in line with your body, and then bring it back. I try to get it that I never lose tension, because then I won't yank the straps and risk falling. And doing this one arm out to the side really challenges me to stay stable in the ab and back, and then a lot of posterior shoulder. I got one more here. And then I'm going to bring it back in and take a pause. I'm going to sit back on my heels to get better range of motion. And I'm going to do a little bicep curl. So keep that same strap, same arm, and then I'm going to go bicep curl. This keeps me from having to move too much. And I just don't like to hold the rope when I do the bicep curl because it hurts my hand a little bit. And this lets me keep a more stable wrist. So just pulling the strap towards my shoulder and reaching back towards my shoulder. I'm just going to do one more time and then bring it in. All right, I'm going to get rid of that strap and switch sides. So again, I'm going to go where the strap is sewn together. Remember, you can stay down or switch to sitting on your bum or come up to that high kneel. So again, I want to make sure I have a neutral posture, that I'm not hanging out in a saggy spine, but I'm nice and tall. So again, hands down by your side. I like to put it here so I can feel myself with my pelvis shift. And I'm just going to do that chest expansion or that long arm pull on that left arm or my straight arm. So if you're doing the opposite arm as me, just make sure you're doing the other side this time. Eyes straight ahead, like I have a string pulling my head up, and my neck is long, so I don't have a forward head. There's a big tendency to want to look what's happening, but then that changes your spinal alignment. So keep that up top. I'm going to hold the next one back, just slightly behind my body, and I'm going to take it into that tricep, bend and stretch. Bending my elbow and straightening it. Pushing back, finding that stability in the trunk muscles. Everything from my shoulders to my knees is active to stabilize as I do that tricep press. I'm going to do one more. And then come back towards the stopper. Again, if you need a little less, change the angle. I'm going to keep that hand out to the side, and this will be that side arm with posterior shoulder. My shoulders should still be pretty level, and it's a smaller range. I bring it a little bit in front of me, in line with the body. So sometimes, again, I think this is an unhug a tree, and I'm really challenging that shoulder stabilizers and trying to keep my head in line, ribs in, so don't flare out. That happens a lot when we add upper body movement. One more. Do what works for your shoulder today. And now I'll sit back, switch to the loop instead of the rope for me. And then in that low kneeling, I'm going to bicep curl. Finding that range of motion that I don't clang and bang. You can always have your elbow down for a different range. I like to challenge my stability for all those scapular muscles. So I keep it pointing a little bit forward. And I'm going to do one more time. And then reset and pause. All right, so that's my single arm unilateral facing the pulleys or the straps. And now I'm going to do a quarter turn. I'm just going to kind of make this a little around the world-ish if I can. So again, I could say low kneeling, crisscross, or a high kneel. I'm going to start in a high kneel. Again, honor your body, shorter loop, longer loop, choke up, what works for you. So I'm going to come up to my knees. And just for angle and alignment, I have the strap on the side I'm kneeling towards. And then I have my toes over the edge. Sometimes I even tuck them against the carriage. But I can because my carriage is over the frame. If you're on balanced spot, you don't need to maybe not grip it. So I'm going to start with just that short lever, that beginning of drawing the sword. So I'm going to start with just that shoulder abduction, which is that deltoid raise. Try to keep your shoulders level. And then if it's in your body today, let's try 5 full draw the sword. So I'm going to pull that elbow out and reach out to the side and then bend my elbow and shoulder. You can always grab the rope for a little assist if you're kind of between springs. Otherwise, find that full draw the sword. Your gaze can follow if that works for you. And I'm going to do one more. Probably means I did 7 because I showed you a couple different versions. And then I'll put my sword away. Good. All right. Now I'm going to take my inside hand, so the hand closest to the risers, and I'm going to do a little punch with rotation. So I have my elbow bent, my hands in kind of like thumb towards my armpit. And as I straighten that arm, elbow, I'm going to point towards the foot bar end. So I'm going to add a little twist. So again, I keep my hand on my pelvis so I can tell if I'm doing any crazy body position. So I'm going to try to stay tall. And I'm going to turn from my ribs and bring it back. So my glutes are going to stay active to keep me tall. And then I'm going to twist from the rib cage and the shoulders and arm follows. So I got some rotation and a little punch. So chest and shoulders. So the opposite of what we just did with the other arm, but aiming the same way. Last one here. All right, so now I'm going to take this into what I call tail a cab. It's a shoulder press, classically also called shave the ear. I hope you don't need to shave your ears, but anyway, think bang go, shave it off. We're going to reach out to the ceiling and bring it down. Again, you can sit down and that will make it a less range of motion tension wise. Up higher is a little more. It's work for you. 5 is usually plenty. And then I'm going to bring it back down. I'm going to take that strap into my foot bar or outside hand. This is our overhead tricep in a laterally flexed position. So I don't try not to sit back, but push my pelvis forward and side bend. You may need to adjust where your body is to fit on the carriage for your height. If your shoulder doesn't like this overhead, bring it down low and do a little tricep. Otherwise, I like to look down at my hand. Some people like to look at their elbows so you can see where they're going. But you want to hold your head still in space. The strap should not be hitting you in the face. If it is, you're probably rounded forward. So try to hold that lateral flexion. Sometimes that's a little elusive when we're playing knee classes. Try to hold that side bend. I'm stretching that whole top side as I do this overhead tricep press. And then I'll bring it down and take a pause. All right. So my goal is a little bit of an around the world. So I'll come back to the other side. I'll try not to forget. And then I'm going to turn and face the foot bar. I'm going to sit in a crisscross position just to give those knees a little time out. And I'm keeping the same strap, which now means it's my left arm. So I'm kind of staying on that same rope as I go around here. So I'm going to start elbow bent, palm up. And then my other hand, again, could be pressing into the side of the carriage, into my waist, or it could follow along. I'm going to serve a tray. So I'm just going to reach out and bring it in. Pushing the hand away, controlling it in. Level across my shoulders. For 2 more. And I'm going to hold this one forward, turn my palm in, and I had a one arm hug a tree. So here, I'm really challenged not to turn with it. So that opposite side of the waist, obliques back, ab, holding me still. And it may be a smaller range of motion. And then when it's forward, I'm gonna flip my elbow, palm up. And now my elbow is gonna point towards the corner of the foot bar, hand by my forehead for a single arm salute. So I'm gonna hinge slightly forward, slouch or slump, but just to reach so I feel like I've got that strap coming over my shoulder. I'm doing that one arm salute. Reaching. And again, I'm still on that one blue spring because I'm using one arm. It's okay to modify what works for your body. I'm trying to do this all without a spring change. You may need one. Never any judgment. Find what works for you. And I'm going to bring that all the way back down. Get rid of that strap. And while I'm here, I'm going to continue that around the world. So let me go ahead and just switch straps here. Shorter, long loop. My straps are shorter than some because they're really close loop. So whatever works on a given day. So other hand can either press into the carriage on your waist. You're going to press out like you're serving that tray. So you're handing it to the foot bar and you're taking it away. I like to imagine I have something like coffee or red wine or tomato soup, something that would make a mess if I dump it, so to keep that palm up when I'm doing the serve. So don't dump your tray. One more like this. And then with my hands out long, I'm going to soften the elbow, palm in a little bit, and here's that one arm hug a tree, or a unilateral chest squat. I try not to let that hand get too far away so it stays slightly in front of my body. That way I don't make my shoulder mad or get it to where I have to heave ho yank it. I'm getting a little sweaty. How about you? Breathe. Use that abdominals with that exhale to stabilize. When my hand's back out in front of me, I'm going to flip the strap so it's over my shoulder, so it shouldn't be scraping me. And then I'll go that hand towards the forehead, elbow pointing towards the corner of the foot bar, and then reaching forward. Again, I have that ever so slight knee. Again, it's not a slouch or a slump or a collapse, but I have my hand right now on my shoulder blade area. I should feel that staying in a little bit of connected, extended position. You don't have to put your hand there, but that was just my way to show you. Working that overhead triceps, one of my favorite spots to work. I'm gonna do two more. And then I'll bring that strap all the way down. All right, continuing that around the world. I'm going to turn and face away from the camera. And you can again stay seated, a low kneel or a high kneel. So I did the high kneel on the other side, so I'm going to try to match. But again, if you have left or right shoulder imbalances, that's okay. I like my knees a little bit apart for stability. And I'm going to start with just a few of that draw, that short lever abduction, or like I'm nudging my neighbor. And then I can take it to that full draw. So you can always keep it the shorter lever. Shoulders should still be pretty level. So I'm trying not to hike it up to my ear as I do that one arm pull. This whole series could be done sitting on the long box as well. If you had your issue with hip or knee in this position, so you can still get that full around the world. I'm going to do one more draw a sword. And then bring it back in. Switching to the inside hand, or the hand closest to the pulley. This is that shoulder press, tail the cab, or that shave the ear. So I'm going to reach up and bring it down. You can change the angle of your elbow to like more of a goalpost if you need a little different angle, but trying to keep it in narrow adds that stability challenge of reaching up without taking it into movement in your spine. So it's really just an overhead shoulder press with a narrow grip. So will be my last one here. And then elbow out. I reversed the order from the other side. Sorry about that. It's okay, still stay arm. So thumb towards my armpit, elbow out wide, and I'm going to do that punch and rotation. So now my pelvis stays still and I turn ribs and shoulders. As an instructor, there are times like that I should change the order, but as long as I get all the moves in, it's usually okay. I'm not going to do any damage. So if you caught that and you already did the other movement, just make sure you do both the shoulder press and a punch with the twist. I'm going to do one more punch with twist, that oblique rotation, and then I'll bring it back. All right, so now I'm going to put my hand close to the shoulder block, on the shoulder block, and I'm going to bring my knees a little bit away so I fit. This depends on your height. of where you fit. And I'm gonna try to find that side bend. So I'm leaning onto the shoulder block, my elbows overhead, and I'm gonna look at that bottom hand. My palm is up for that overhead tricep press. Again, you can do something different if you need to. I have some clients that shoulders don't like this position, so I just have them do it down low. So if that arm is down here, you can just do a low kickback. But anyway, that was the last one. So we'll put that down. And now we have gone all the way around the world there. I'm going to stay on that blue screen. I'll warn you, this isn't super nice. Hands, if you need to go forearms, you can. I'm going to put my hands on the carriage near the mat. You can go up on the shoulder blocks if your wrist like that. But again, we're on a blue, not a red, so I'm still on that light strength. You can stay on the platform or go up to the foot bar. So you might test it down low, lifting your knees and press out to a plank and bring it back in. And decide, do you want to stay low or are you going to go up to the foot bar? When I go up to the foot bar, I like to straighten one leg out first and get standing in that plank position with that flexed foot, and then bring my other leg up to meet it. And then I know I can get up there safely. And since I'm teaching you on a video, get there safely because I can't stop them. Shoulders are wide, pulling my abs in, trying to pull my belly away from the shirt, which looks like I'm doing it because it's sagging a little bit. Add a shoulder soft, just small. Always okay to take a time out between those movement patterns. Try to make sure your back is strong and long, head to heel like a piece of steel. And I'll bring your knee down and return. You never want to get that saggy back. Nice long line. All right, at least I assume you did it well when I say it. All right, so that's my kind of around the world there. We're going to take a little break from the upper body and go down to some lower body. So I'm going to change the spring to one red. So I went a little tight. Then I'm going to take the blue one off. I'm going to do some sideline foot in the straps. This is great for those lateral hips and glutes. Some people like to rest up with their head resting on the headrest. Some people like the little mini ball as a pillow. I just use my arm, whatever works for you. So I need to get in position, usually on the back half of the carriage, so I fit. And then you can take your bottom foot and press against the frame of the foot bar to get there, or you can jack in the beanstalk and climb your hands up the rope. Once you get your strap there, find your spine as long as you can. And my goal, I'm going to pull my shirt in so you can see that I'm trying not to sink here, but to stay long. So I try to keep that little space between the rib and hip. It's okay if your tissue is touching, but you want to try to make sure that you're not just collapsed and sinking, but you want to think, reach that sits bone so that just like when you're laying on your back in tabletop, I'm pretty stable. And if I let that hip hang up, then I'm compromised in this side of the waist. So there's a little bit about setup. So again, finding that you feel like you're in that tabletop position. The rope should either come just in front or just below your knee, but it shouldn't be flipping across, right? So tabletop, that knee and foot should stay about my hip height. And again, I'm going to pull that waist in. Sometimes I like to say, like, I can see a little piece of sunshine, or I can see a little bit of my wall behind me. And I'm just going to bend and stretch. So this is just coming into tabletop and stretching out. My goal is to push that leg out longer, making it the longest leg I got, longest waist I got, and then pressing out. The goal, the challenge is those lateral hips to stabilize you. If you're feeling the bottom leg as well, no, it's working. That's normal. Okay. So now I'm going to hold the next one out. I'm going to reach that leg and waist as long as I got. I'm trying to reach the foot bar. And I'm going to stay parallel, so no turn out. And I got about a 4-inch up, 4-inch down. Notice my carriage isn't really moving. If you stay connected here, it really won't. And that's how you know you're not like swinging, right? But reaching. And this guy, that glute medius, minimus, lateral hips, your SAS, your side, SAS, right? Feel that connect. Now I'm going to keep it long. Always okay to take a time out by bending your knee. Instead, I like to stretch it out and get a little energy there. And now I'm going to sweep the leg forward. So it's our side kick and pull it back. So it's hip flexion. It's not about the forward. And this is pulling it back. So it's like your side kick from the mat series. It's a sweep forward and back. Or if we were on our back, it would be the lower and lift. But since it's unilateral day in this video, I'm gonna find that sweep forward and back. One more time. And I'm gonna take it out long again. I'm gonna turn out. My hip is on fire, just so you know. If yours isn't burning, then you must have stronger hips. Now we're gonna bend and straighten. Imagine you're in a frog. So you can think if you brought that bottom leg up, your heels would be touched together. So you can keep it there just to feel a little different feel on that bottom leg. And also give you that like, there's my goal, range of motion. And again, I'm still trying to pull that bottom waist up. Sometimes a little harder when you add that turnout. And then I'm gonna reach it out long. Last one, point up to the sky, pull down. So now it's that brushing up and pulling down. I can't really keep my shirt up anymore. I'm too sweaty. So just know, if you're not glistening, you better connect some core, or maybe have your AC really low. Lift up and pull down. One more time. And then I'm gonna just bring it forward and let it kind of pull me into the stretch. All right, I'm gonna keep this same strap on. If it doesn't work for you safely to get there, you don't have to do this, but I use my foot on the foot bar frame. And now I'm gonna still have that right foot in the strap, but it's the strap across from me because it was in front of me, right? And then I'm gonna bring the other leg to tabletop. And then I'm gonna lift and lower here a couple of times. It's like, oh, now it's still a lateral hip because I'm trying to pull that leg down towards the rope comes over my nose, but don't let it hit you in the eyeball. So I'm trying not to let it pull me across, but straight up and down. I'm just gonna do this like 4 more times. Just a little extra challenge. You can make it a scissor leg. And again, trying to stay in control. If I go fast, that foot's gonna pull across the midline. So I'm trying not to let it. And then I'm gonna find the foot bar. I'm gonna take this foot out of the strap. And that was optional. I'm throwing this new foot. And I'm just gonna give a little figure 4. And again, the right leg did the work on my side and on my back. And I'm giving a little stretch because it needed it. I earned it. Find what works for you. Take a moment and realize you're gonna feel it quicker on the other side because that bottom side is working to stabilize us. All right, so now my back will be to your camera. So listen up, we're gonna do the same exercises. And now I'm gonna lay on my right side, my left foot in the strap. And then again, I sometimes have to wiggle around or use the frame of the foot bar to help get my body in position. I'm gonna try to pull that waist up, stretch that leg out long. Bottom leg is a tabletop leg kickstand. So my hips are stacked. Again, I'll remind you of those things. Reach that bone of that top leg towards the foot bar. So that waist is long, bottom side pulled up. And now bend your leg on the top at hip height into that 90-degree bend of hip and knee or that tabletop shape. So you're bringing the knee forward and back, really aiming towards the corner of the foot bar on the side I'm facing. Trying to keep my spine long. Everyone likes to watch their feet. But if I drop my chin to look, my whole spine flexes. And so then I'm not in that long alignment. So really just trust your body and the strap. You'll feel it. And you want to feel tension the whole time. And again, keeping that little mouse hole, the little lava tunnel under your ribs, sunshine, or I can put my hand under there. Whatever cue works for you, whether you're leaving the carry or some of you are still touching it, that's okay. I'm gonna hold this next one out, reach it long, stand in that strap, really feel like your foot reaches a little bit further. That side hip really just kicked in a little more for me. Now I'm gonna stay parallel, so no turn out, and lift and lower, 4 inches up, 4 inches down. Remember, we're trying not to move the carriage, and it's just a little up, a little down. Reaching long, make it the longest leg you got. Feel the energy going out of your feet, and breathe. 2 more like this. And then stand on that strap, kind of reset those hips and shoulders, make sure you're nice and long. And then we'll brush that leg forward, that side kick, and pull it back. Try to keep the hip, knee, ankle parallel train tracks and on the same line. So keeping the foot about hip height, or sometimes you can think foot bar height, to pull that in. How's that sass? I'm burning. This is so good for our hips. It's the hurt so good of Pilates. You feel it while you're doing it. It shouldn't last too long, but we'll stretch it out. And I'm gonna reach it long and now add that turnout. And so now it's the frog. And again, sometimes I like to, in my own body, to bring that bottom foot into frog. So I have that aiming point that I know I'm bringing that heel to the heel and that knee and toe are turned out, but I'm not rolled off of my hip. So this pelvis should still be stacked. That's the tendency that a lot of people roll back. So just try to stay as still as you can. 2 more in that bend and stretch in the frog shape. And then you reach out long. Last one, lift the foot up to the ceiling and pull it down. So it's that turned out lift and lower. These can also happen on the springboard or the tower of the Cadillac with the purple or long whips, whatever color they are, black, white, purple, and the long leg springs. How's that? 2 more. Feel some inner thighs to join the party when we add this pulling down. And then when I finish this one, I'm going to sweep it forward. Let that leg go to the ground for a second. And then while I'm stretching, I went ahead and move my arm and shoulder out from between the shoulder blocks. And then I'm going to bend the knees and roll to my back. Again, if you're not quite looking on the playground, feel free to get there a different way. And then I'm going to bring both legs to tabletop. Think guide wire with that. My right leg's the one in the air, left leg has the right strap. So the strap is crossed. So sometimes I do a couple bend and stretches to make sure I'm there. And then we're going to lift and lower. So again, you could add that as a scissor. You want a little more. And again, my foot's trying to pull in. So I'm trying to keep it lined up with my shoulder, hip, sits bone, somewhere thereabouts, but not letting it come into the middle. Again, that leg can stay at tabletop. This is also kind of helping mobilize with the blood flowing back in the hips. And getting a little hamstring stretch at the top, but it's not really just about that. It's about lengthening and strengthening. So don't let it go too high. So I don't want my booty to pop up. And I'm just going to do 1 more of those. And then I'll cross. Oops, wrong leg. I'm going to do that one. I'll bring that leg in, take the foot out, and then give myself the figure 4, and I'll get rid of those straps. How you doing? So we did some footwork, we did some bridge, we did some hands and straps with some abs, and then we did an around the world unilateral with the upper body, a little reverse plank series there, a regular plank. Other than the footwork and bridge, we've been on 1 spring. I did it on 1 red supine. You could do this whole thing other than that footwork and bridge on 1 blue. All right, I'm gonna uncross my legs. Bring myself up on my back. And then I add a blue spring. So now I'm going to go a red and a blue. I'm going to grab a quick sip of water because I've been talking a lot. All right. If you need a modification because you have wrist or knee issues, feel free to do something different. So we did those planks, reverse knee stretches facing the other way. Now we're going to go facing the foot bar. Okay. So again, I have it on a red and a blue. You could do something different. You could bring your hands down to the platform if you need a little less shoulder range of motion or just a little less. If you do that, you might need to move the foot bar down. So shoulders and core are going to stay strong. I'm going to bring my hips over my heels, and I'm going to try to find a little bit of a flex position here. And then I'm just going to do those knee stretches again. I'm going to press the legs out, pull it in. Little core move. Everything's still in my upper half. 2 more. And then I'll bring it in. Transition to the down stretch. So I'm going to stay in extension. So this counts as a little prone extension where shoulders are down, heart is up. And then I'm going to press back and pull in. So just a little bit more of a strong intermediate move to do it correctly. My pelvis is in a little imprint. My heart is open and my eyes stay up on the wall in front of me. Just press back to my point of control. And then I'll bring it all the way in and stop at the carriage. All right, long stretch. So again, I push this up as we warmed up. Now we're in a little bit more intermediate. Strong shoulders and core. I'm going to try to keep thumbs with fingers. It actually keeps your wrist more aligned. If the thumbs are back, wrist deviates in and puts more pressure on that thumb joint side. So strong shoulders, grip the bar, feel like you're pulling it apart, lift your knees, straighten your legs, and then you get a plank out with the bar. And this is where my carry isn't in the right spot, but I got it today. And I'm gonna press back long and pull back in. Press it back. Pull back in. One more time. Just that long stretch plank. And try to come all the way back to the stopper. And then I'm gonna go flat feet in the elephant position. So based on your height, hamstring, or hip mobility, you may need to adjust. But I want to say that my shoulders are extended, but notice this, I don't want to be here. I want to be here. So they're still in front of my body a little bit. Pull my toenails up so my weight's in my heels. And I'm going to look at my toes. Press the carriage back a little bit. Pull it in. So like that knee stretch, nothing else is supposed to move but the hip down. Round back or a little flat back. I have a pretty stiff lumbar spine as far as mobility, so it doesn't always move a lot. I got one. And then I'm gonna go high heel. And this is our, I call this bull or walking elephant. So I'm gonna bring my right foot forward so my toes are at the edge of the carriage. My left leg is gonna be still high heel against the shoulder block. And I'm gonna bend my front leg. So look like I'm in the runner's lunge. I know this is bull or walking elephant. So I'm gonna straighten the front leg and bend the back. Notice hips and shoulders stay in the same place. And I'm just gonna switch which leg is bent and which leg is straight. As I do that, that front leg, I'm pushing the hip back so they're level. I'm getting a hamstring stretch, a little mobility. And instead of leaning on the foot bar, I should feel like I'm pushing away from it. So really strong in that shoulder girdle. I'm just gonna do one more. Bring it into the stopper. I like to bring the leg forward and the other leg back. Switch whichever works for you. And then again, I'm going to reach back. So I have my back leg bent to start, or so, yeah, and my front leg straight, shoulder strong, pushing away from the bar, eyes on that edge of the carriage. And then I'll bend back into that runner's lunge shape and then switch. So again, hips stay still. And I'm getting that front leg bent, back leg straight. And then I switch back leg bent, front leg straight. And really the work is like you pull it in with control. That front leg starts getting that hamstring stretch. 2 more times. And then all the way back in. I'm going to lower both knees. And then from here, I'm going to go into a hip flexor stretch. You can put a foot on the foot plate or standing platform if you need a little less. I'm pretty Gumby, so I'm going to go up to the foot bar. So now I'm just going to hold that front leg forward, back leg back. And I'm going to try to pull my pelvis under. My goal is a hip flexor stretch of the carriage down knee. For me, it's my right. And you can hold right there. You can press out to change that angle. Really trying to get that not hyper, dumping into the back. And then you can press back to the splits if you got it. And bring it in. Whatever your range of motion is, what feels good to you. Just a couple more times. Just opening up the front of the hip. You might feel some stretch. Other places do. That's normal. And then I'll bring it in and switch. So again, I can go down on the platform, test out the waters, or stay right here. Trying to stretch that down thigh. So I do like to do a little imprint. So I get that pelvis tucked under a little bit. So I find that hip and thigh on the front side of that down. Like you can lift the arm up for a little more. Hand on the foot bar. Find it again. If you're feeling more flexible or you've got the range of motion, you can bring the leg up to the foot bar and find that stretch. Maybe press back a little bit. All the way. Finding your stretch today. And one more of those. Press back. Find that stretch. And then bring it in. And pause. All right, I'm going to come down. And I'm going to take this ring off. You can cut the red off or the blue off. Either one. We're just going to do mermaid. So if you like it a little lighter, take the red off. If you like it a little heavier, take the blue off. So one spring. And then in that Z sit, so I have my leg closest to the shoulder blocks back. And then I'm going to put my other hand lined up with my shoulder, not really in front of me, because I'm going to try to add that rotation. Now, this hip close to the shoulder block is up a little bit depending on your hip mobility. The goal is to get it down as low as you can. But really, keep it stable. So I start with my elbow bent a little bit. That may depend on how tall you are and where you reach. And I'm gonna straighten the hand on the foot bar first. I'm still tall in my spine. And then I wanna laterally flex. I'm gonna breathe into that top rib cage, trying to push that rib to the ceiling as I do that. And your body naturally has a little turn, so that's okay. Just try not to just drop your chin, but to turn that whole body just a little bit to find that stretch that works for your body and doesn't cause any discomfort in your neck or shoulder. And then bring yourself up. I'm gonna add rotation to this one if it's available in your body. So press that, side bend, and then rotate all the way down until both hands are on the foot bar. Now I'm trying to pull this belly in, and I'm twisted, right? So I'm gonna do 3 shoulder presses, trying to stay in a long flexion. So I've got a little imprint in that low back and pelvis. And then I'll keep my arms straight. And then I like to think tail to head, articulate into that kind of, it's called a mermaid with rotation, but a little like a twisted swan. So lift your heart, find where that feels good to you. Don't go past that point. Big breath in, and then press it away, round and rotate back over and come up. I like to get you out of that the same way you get there to protect your spine. And then I'll take the foot bar hand, pull on the shoulder block by my knee, and take a quick counter stretch. Big breath in, and then release it. I like to lift my knees and turn to the other way. If you need to get there another way, you may. And then I'm facing the other way, so that chin is up against the shoulder block. My hand close to the foot bar, which is my right one on this side, is lined up with my shoulder, not in front of me, but right there. And I hopefully don't have to move it. So we'll start with straightening the elbow and then finding that side bend, breathing into that top rib, like I'm trying to push the rib to the opposite end of my reformer. Big breath in. Again, it's okay to have a little turn because the spine naturally rotates a little as you do this. And bring it back in. And then we'll add that rotation, just the mermaid if that's what you got or what your body likes. And then side stretch over, big breath into the ribs, and then I exhale to rotate down. Try to keep my pelvis back, my belly pulled in on a little imprint so that bottom side low back is really stretched out. And I'm gonna take those 3 shoulder presses. Like just to hold that spot. And then I'll straighten the arms, keep them straight, press down into my hands, lengthen tail to head, into that long line, slightly extended upper body, pressing down into the foot bar. That twisted mermaid with rotation, or a little swan-like shape. Pulling those shoulders away from the ears, crown of the head long, big breath in, and then I'll exhale, press away, tucking the tail back under a little bit, rotate back to my side bend, come all the way up, take the foot bar hand off, and find that counter stretch. It feels good today. And then, if you need any other stretch, feel free to take it. But that was my unilateral focus reformer workout today. Thanks for joining me if you watched all the way through. And if you didn't hear me say that anyway. Have a great rest of your day.